Hi, this is Ranbir Kaur. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I have a very special guest with us today, Dr. Shimi Kang. She is an award winning Harvard trained psychiatrist, a number one best-selling author, neuroscience researcher, media expert, and international keynote speaker. And she has helped countless people across the globe achieve better health, happiness, and success. So I am so excited to have you here today, Dr. Kang. Thank you so much for joining us. We have an audience of very keen parents and families gathering together to learn how to help themselves have better relationships under their roof and to learn to have more meaningful connections there, because that's the place where it matters the most. And I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit about your new book. I know we're going to dive right in. You've got some really interesting things to share with us about tech. And tech is such a big, big conversation for us right now because of the impacts of COVID 19. And it's a great stressor on family life. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the most common myths, right? Because there's a lot of confusion around what's real and what's not real these days about the impact of tech on our kids.
Right. Thank you, Ranveer. And first off, thank you for all your great work that you're doing for families and kids all over. We need more of these topics. We need more of these conversations. We don't have a good track record right now with kids. We're having rising rates of anxiety, depression, addiction, obesity, sedentary behaviors, technology addiction. Parents have never been so stressed, high rates of burnout. So we really need people like you to support and build communities to exchange ideas. So really grateful for your work. And technology to me, really, I believe is probably, in my opinion, the number one parenting issue right now of our time. Technology has disrupted everything. It's disrupted how we live, how we eat, how we, educate, our healthcare. And there's some really positive aspects to it. It's extremely powerful. Yet at the same time, we now know that aspects of technology, things like blue light, impacts our metabolic rhythm. It affects our children's sleep, our own sleep, our glucose metabolism, and that's just the light. We know that technology exposure in young children is linked to disruption of something called the white matter in the brain. This is a really important insulation in our brain that allows our neurons to fire faster. And that has very profound impact, especially on young kids, because their brain is still developing. It's not fully formed. And so now it's developing with a disruption. We know that technology is linked to body image disturbance, anxiety, depression. And in the last year, the WHO has declared gaming disorder and internet addiction as medical diseases.
Wow,
So,
I didn't know that.
yeah, all of that. So when when you ask me the question about myths, I think the biggest myth is black and white thinking that, technology is either all bad, we got to keep our kids off of it and at all costs, or, it's good and, the world needs it and we should just let them use it and experiment. And I think that the answer really is the balance, the in between. It sounds so simple, but I always say simple is not easy. And
No, it's really hard
and
to be
that's why
simple.
so many parents, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry about that. I was just going, yes,
Yeah,
yes, 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 yes to
yeah.
everything. I got all excited and interrupted you. Sorry about that. But it's so true. The idea of keeping things simple, is so much harder to write a simple one sentence versus a whole paragraph on something. To take it and to make it small enough that it makes sense is tough. So I get that. What are we missing or ignoring about tech? What is it that you think that we're trying to look away from?
I think the biggest thing, and in my research and in the tech solution book that's available August 18th of this year, this summer. Really, what I wanted to do there was explain to parents what's happening in the brain when we're using
Mm.
technology. Because a big missing piece is, unlike any other product, other than perhaps sugar and processed foods in our foods, there has never really been a product targeted towards children that is very purposely and intentionally using neuroscience, in
Mm.
particular, something called dopamine or persuasive design. The design of the products are using very sophisticated science, some of the world's top researchers, and all of that is embedded in video games and social media to really attract and hook children and adults. And that's one side of the screen, and is all of this science and very powerful design. And on the
Mm.
other side of the screen, you have an immature brain, a
Mm.
young child, and it's a mismatch. And there really is, it's like taking I think the analogy is like taking a knife to a laser fight. So with that
Mm.
information, we really need to be present. We
Yes.
need to be informed and educated and guide our children towards a healthy, meaningful way of using technology. And in the book, I give the metaphor of food and diet, because that's a familiar thing that we parents have been teaching our kids for time immemorial. And I realized in my parenting talks, and as I was traveling the world with a dolphin parent, that parents needed something quick, simple, and familiar to tackle this next big topic that we're facing.
I think that's such an important thing to explore, the idea of diet. And what's funny is when I was looking at the information that you're sharing about the tech diet, it aligns with our values at our house, because when we first introduced tech, somebody actually gifted our child a Wii, and he had a video game, our eldest. And so I decided at that time that I would explain to him that this was, I didn't know what to call it. I called it, this is your junkie time. And so sometimes we have ice cream, sometimes we have chips. We don't associate negativity with that. So when you're eating that food, really enjoy it, but it also has to be in moderation. So we have, as a family, tried to make sure that we don't make tech super bad.
Right.
And that, so because that's the black and white thinking you were talking about, it's so important. And I find that as they grew older, I would also make time to play their games with
Hmm.
them,
Hmm.
because I didn't want them to associate that with being a cut from me. Like, I wanted to know, to them to know there's always that dialogue open with them. I come in last place every single time. Once I came in second last in their game, so that was really exciting for me. So I worked my way up from 12th to 11th, and so got there a little bit. But I think the ticket is what you're talking about, is getting into the gray and saying your child's life has this in it. How do you meet them part way rather than making it something forbidden? Because we've all been kids and we
Yeah.
all want what's forbidden. So in one way or another, we'll find our way there, just to see what's so exciting about this thing I'm not supposed to do. So I think that's so brilliant to talk about it from nourishment. How are you nourishing your mind, body, and spirit? And
Right.
it's so wonderful to see it having this big of an impact, because you are sharing this message across the globe, and it's fantastic. And it makes me think about you had shared 3 C's. Like, it's such a great way to simplify the impact of tech. So I'd love for you to share with our audience about your sort of classification of tech.
Right. Yeah. So, with the metaphor of the diet, like you said, and I love your analogy of junkie tech, because I think when we teach children about food, we kind of teach them different categories. We teach them there's healthy food
Mm.
that you can consume and eat, with out guilt. Like, this is going to nourish you. This is going to be good for you. That same way, there's healthy tech. There's also junk food that, in moderation or limits and monitoring, like chips and pizza and soda pop, aren't going to kill you at low doses. But if that's all you're consuming, then it will start to cause harm. And that's dopamine driven tech.
Mm.
Those would be things like mindless scrolling, video gaming, social media, again, just kind of scrolling around, and you're not really getting any value from that. And then, just like food, there's toxic food. There's tech that's very bad for young people that really should just be off the table. Things like
Mm.
pornography,
Yes.
things like cyberbullying, hate, the fake news, and gambling, any kind. And there's very high rates of all that happening in young people. So the metaphor really is to avoid toxic tech that releases cortisol, that makes us weak in our body and mind, and triggers a stress response linked to all kinds of anxiety, depression, physical health issues. Limit and monitor junk tech, that's that dopamine driven quick hits, and consume healthy tech. And I'll give you the neurochemicals just to be complete. But the healthy tech is the three C's that you mentioned. So use tech to care for yourself, self care, to create, be creative, and to connect in a meaningful way. So, what I mean by that is use tech to release endorphins through self care, things like exercise apps, Fitbits, counting your steps, meditation, mindfulness, breathing, all that wonderful stuff, to connect, oxytocin, bond, and form meaningful connections, like your Facebook group, like the community you're building. That's very powerful, meaningful connection. And use tech to create. So instead of playing a video game and being the follower, create a video game, try coding, build a website, make music, do graphic design. So if we do the three C's, connect, create, and self-care, now we can guide our children towards tech consumption that is actually positive and beneficial to them.
Fantastic. So fantastic. Um, I've a couple more questions. One of them, I was going to ask you next, but I'm going to save it for the end because I think it's going to be an interesting conversation for the parents that are the main people watching this. But a lot's been going on with tech, especially the last few months. I have noticed in my own household, obviously, because of online learning, which is, categorized in my mind as a good thing. But the impact of it on the children has been intense. And, obviously there's different factors involved. Their social connections are not the same. They're not out playing their sports. My kids are very social. They like to meet and talk and get all that happening. But also there was impact on like group projects, and some kids are carrying the load more than others, so they're online more. And how do you think that learning, just our education system, is going to look moving forward? And will that include, and it's a long question, I'm just going to throw it all out there, like some things like electives, should those electives still be included? Because if they're sitting for more than 6 hours already, do they need to do an online PE class or online band and things like that? Like,
Right.
what's the impact on arts? And like, how do you see that unfolding? But how do we, I guess it's a couple of parts. Sorry, I run on question. What's the recommendation for managing online school? And then what do you think it's going to look like in the future?
Right. Yeah, it's such a big topic. I have three kids, and my youngest daughter, she has dyslexia. My
Oh,
oldest son has some learning issues and ADHD, and the remote learning environment has been pretty challenging. My middle
yes.
son's fine, but still. So I think it really also depends on every child and their learning
Yes.
needs. I like to use the word remote learning. I know it's just a little pivot, but the reason why is online learning, it doesn't have to be online. So when we look at the
Mm,
homeschooling
yes.
world, a lot of the lessons were, you get them by your computer, but you can actually execute those lessons and learning in real life. So, a science teacher can give a remote lesson, let's say on chemistry, and then the child can go and incorporate, the experiment in their kitchen, let's say, or
Amazing.
go outside into their backyard or somewhere in nature. So we want to try to remember that this is remote learning, and it doesn't all have to be in front of the screen.
Hmm.
The screen can provide instruction and direction, but try to move off the screen when you can. The
Yes.
other thing is, we know that seeing each other, looking into each other's eyes, hearing each other's voices is really important for all humans, especially kids. We know that children are relational learners, meaning that they learn best when there's a positive relation. So that's where sometimes, instead of focusing so much, let's say, on the academic lesson, it's important for teachers and parents to take the time to build that relationship, which is harder to do in a remote environment. So in school, a teacher may give stickers, or there may be moments of spontaneous laughter and bonding. They have to be created in the remote environment, because
Hmm.
children have to feel bonded and connected to their teachers, to really engage. So I think that's probably something that is going to become more prominent. I think, everyone had to do it very quickly. And the idea
Yes.
was, let's just take our lessons and put them on the computer, without really understanding there's so many nuances to it. And then, just some really basics, like, you could have the best lesson, but if you've been sitting all day, it's
Mm.
sedentary, your brain is not going to work. If you're sleep deprived, so really taking care of those basics, routine, regular sleep, routine, regular movement, exercise, getting out in nature. You don't want your kids. When my son was first doing this, he was sitting in the basement, for hours, and we had to consciously build in sunlight. I'm like, you need to see sunlight. You need to see it in the morning. So you have to wake up, and normally you would go you'd go to school, you'd walk, or you'd be in a car, and you get some exposure to the natural world. Now we had to build it in. And so we had
Hmm.
to wake up, and even though the computer was right there, just do a little walk around our house just to get that. So I think we're going to have to really pay attention to those basic things of life, focus on relationships
Hmm.
with the instructor, and remember that the online schools is remote, and learning can still happen in other environments.
I really like how you reframe that, because for me, the instant you said remote learning, it changed in my head for me
Mhm.
too. And we also need to have compassion for our educators through this process, because this is their first go around,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah, and
it's
I kudos to them. They've been
kudos to
amazing from
them.
what I can see. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and they're also dealing with all the other stresses that we all have. And now they have this huge responsibility.
I think that's what sometimes is missed, is the fact that they are actually they're not living or existing in a silo. They actually have the same stressors
Yeah.
that we do. And on top of that, they have to change how they do their job entirely,
Yeah.
not entirely, but mostly how they're
Yeah.
delivering. And so I just want to give a hats off to all the educators, because man, oh man, that's a big
Mhm.
shift. Big, big shift. One of the things that we have used in our family that people might find useful, it's a free app. It's called Be Focused.
Mm.
And in that app, you can sort of set the tasks that the kids need to do in the day, for example. And I just thought of it when you were talking about redoing how you function with remote learning. So you could say, for example, if they had 5 subjects, you could sort of put the subjects in, and then you start the timer, and then after 25 minutes, a little bell rings, and it gets you to get up and walk
Right.
around and have a 5 or 10 minute break,
Yeah.
because it allows that learning to be sort of synthesized with the body too, right? Because we
Right.
forget it's not all this,
Exactly.
bringing
Yeah.
the body in and allowing the brain to rest a little bit and get away from the screen. So it's
Hmm.
it's a free app. I wish I had come up with it, but I didn't. It's called Be Focused.
Right.
um, and so that's a helpful thing that I found.
Yeah. That's
um,
healthy tech, right?
Healthy
That's
tech.
kind of technology where it can help you. And I'm working,
Exactly.
just so you mentioned that, I'm working on an app called Spark,
Oh,
which
great.
is for parent children. It's actually a parenting app, where parents can do mindfulness practices with their kids and
Mm,
meditations. There's also communication prompts for difficult situations. And there's a whole bunch of play exercises, coming from the world of play therapy, that you can use with your child to help solve problems and build resilience. I find, like, in my world as a psychiatrist, we have all these tools. We use play therapy, we use communication strategies, But we need to give these to parents
Mm.
to help them along the way. So hopefully
Yeah.
that will be something that people will find useful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Healthy tech. And what I just want to pause for a second and I want to share, if you keep watching, watch the end of the video. I'm going to share with you how you can win a copy of Dr. Kang's The Dolphin Parent. This is a national bestseller, so make sure you keep tuned into this video and you'll find out how I'm going to give some of these copies away for you to go and eat it up. It's all the good stuff in there. So much good stuff. One thing that might be a little bit of a sensitive topic of conversation that I've noticed in my coaching practice, I've been doing this work since 2009. And so I work with the kids in the family unit and sometimes three generations. Um, the conversation that kids bring forward is, but my mom's on her phone all the time, or my
Right.
dad's always on his computer, or my dad games and the this and the that. So, how do we help parents develop their own concept of healthy tech? And what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's so telling how brilliant and observant children are, and they're calling out their parents. I'm certainly seeing that too,
Hmm.
and I think some of it is kids are really good at calling out their parents, but some of it is actual real concern.
Hmm.
That they are like, wow, their parents aren't accessible to them; they're not present because of
Yes.
that technology, and adults are certainly not immune to the
Hmm.
addiction and the junk tech and all of that design that I mentioned. So I think parents, first of all, we need to realize that what we do is more important than what we say. Number one, so role modeling, and
Mm.
we've all heard it a million times, but knowing is not doing. We know role modeling is super important, but that doesn't mean that we're using that tool as a parenting strategy. So if you want your children to have healthy diet, healthy sense of exercise, healthy technology, so you actually have to show them, and you
Mhm.
have to make it clear, and maybe even announce it, like, I'm going to the gym now, like, I really wanted to eat all that pasta, but I'm going to eat a salad. You're at a restaurant, and you say, you know what, I have all these emails to check, but I'm going to shut my phone down. So bring it into the conversation.
Mhm.
And when you do have to use tech, and I do in front of my kids all the time, and an example is, I think I was waiting in a parking lot at a grocery store, and I grabbed my phone, and my child called me out and said, "Mom, you're using." But I had to remember, and then what I said is, you know what? I'm not playing video games, and I'm not scrolling social media right now. I'm actually paying the grocery bill that we're picking up, and I'm registering you in your school extracurricular activities. So also communicate to them what
Yes.
you're doing on technology, because they don't understand all of the responsibilities that parents have, all the little things we do and we use our phones for,
Mhm.
booking a hotel room, paying bills, booking their dentist appointments.
Yeah.
So I think if you are, and so that's where I don't think we need to get extreme and never use our phone in front of the kids.
Perfect. Yeah.
Just tell them what's going on. And if you slip up and they catch you, you say, oh my God, that is so true. That's how powerful this is without even thinking I ended up on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. So it is such a good topic that you bring up, because we have no chance of raising a generation with healthy tech habits if we ourselves as parents are not role modeling them.
Yeah. And I think what you said about acknowledging that, yes, I'm using my junkie time too.
Yeah,
And I only do, so being imperfect with your
right.
tech and open about it, that's huge. And they really don't know that you're online paying bills because they haven't had to go online
They've
and pay
never done it.
bills.
Yeah,
They've never done it.
yeah,
So it's,
yeah,
a mystery to them.
right.
Um, they might think they know all this, but they really, really don't. And it's very cute, how sometimes they you know think ahead and so on and so forth and can't get it. But I think the honesty and the dialogue are so important. And I think sometimes some parents feel threatened by that conversation or the kids calling them out because they think it's a question of authority. And I think it's more of an opportunity for a dialogue and to build that connection and relationship and trust. Because as they head into their teen years and early adult years, you want them to be able to have that dialogue with you and come to you when they're struggling, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you showed the cover of the Dolphin Parent, and
Yeah.
think that that's what I was really trying to
Yeah.
achieve in that book.
Yeah.
Is again, we get very black and white, and we're like,
Mm.
well, I'm either going to be authoritarian, we can call it the shark or the helicopter
Yeah.
or the tiger parent or the snowplow or whatever, and that parent is micromanaging, overly
Mm.
directive, pushy, and what we know and the research very clearly shows is children of that type of parenting either go underground with high risk negative behaviors, they hide it, or they develop a sense of anxiety and a difficulty doing anything for
Yes.
themselves, right? Because they're always being micromanaged and controlled. But
Mm.
then on the other hand, we get the parenting where it's like, well, everyone's on their phone. What can I do? And that's what we call the jellyfish or permissive,
Yeah.
lacking rules, lacking expectations, lacking structure, and lots of negative consequences in that approach. And what we want, this is simple but not easy, that balance, that middle place, that sweet spot. The dolphin, the body of the animal is firm but
Mm.
flexible, it's strong. So be strong with your values as a parent. We value exercise, we value our sleep, we value family time. There's not a lot of compromise on those things. There's a firmness there, but there's a flexibility for each individual's child's personality as they grow, allowing more independence, having them
Mhm.
collaboratively solve problems. So you don't want to be micromanaging. You don't want to be permissive. You want to be in that middle spot. It's really tough. I say on Mondays, I'm like a shark and aggressive because I got a huge list to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
by Friday, I'm a jellyfish and exhausted.
Yeah.
And a couple days in the middle, I'm kind of a dolphin because I'm in a good flow.
And I like that you can share that openly, that, even though you're in this space, you still work at it every day. And I think that's what people forget. It's like showering. You got to do it every day. You got to put some thought into it. And I had the same thing happen where my son had said to me something about, oh, he came up with this idea, which was great for him to prep for something. And then he told me, and then I was like, did you get it? Did you get the book? And then I realized, hey, that's his thing. That's his gig. He brought that up. He came up with that idea. I need to back off. So
Right.
we are all always having to be mindful. It doesn't matter. We still are parents
Oh yeah.
at the
Yeah,
end of the day,
exactly.
and
Yeah.
we have to work through it. I as we're talking more, I think I have to have you on again. If like we have to do this again and do this again. What I'd like the viewers to know is that we're going to give copies of The Dolphin Parent away. The Tech Diet is coming out August the 18th. Tech Solution, sorry.
Yeah.
Tech Solution. Ooh, it's coming out August the 18th. I remember the date because it's my brother's birthday. So make sure that you follow Dr. Kang and stay up to date with all the information she's putting out. She has a fantastic YouTube channel and so much great content that you can go and consume in a good way. I'll put all the links to that in the description for this video below. And in order to enter this contest to win the Dolphin Parent, what I'd like for you to do is to like this video and to make sure to put a comment below. And that will enter you into the contest to win the Dolphin Parent. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ranveer, and all your great work. It's been a pleasure, and I would love to come on again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for watching. You can expect videos every Friday with me, Ranveer Poir, all about parenting, kids, and family, developing growth, connection, communication, and resilience under your roof. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notified. You can also follow me on social media for more content and for us to stay connected. All the links are available in my profile. You can also find other resources for parents and kids if you head to my online school. The link is available in the description, or just go to innerchampion.me.